Hey, you guys, welcome to another call. I know I'm in an awkward position here. I'm going to go behind my counter in just a second. Welcome to today's Facebook Live. As always, we try to do something really cool on Fridays. And today is a topic that's really close to my heart because I've been struggling with coffee addiction my whole life. And that's just not cool. So I also have a guest here with me, Lopa from Rasa Coffee. She's from Boulder, Colorado as well. Let me go behind the counter so that you can see me better. And I'm using a software today that I can't turn off from my phone. There we go. So much better. And I feel better. So, one of the things that I really want to highlight today is there is so much of, I think, marketing knowledge, if you will, about how great is coffee. You've got coffee recommended first thing in the morning with some butter in it, coffee as part of your intermittent fasting. And the truth of the matter is that, it does work wonders for some people and it just doesn't work for others. And so this is the reason why I'm really passionate about this, because a lot of the time, for those of you who follow us, you do the elimination diet, you get off all the inflammatory foods, you start doing a lot of work on your liver, start supporting your gut healing. A lot of the hormonal stuff starts really fixing themselves, if you will. And then there's always for some people, you just hit the wall and you go, oh my gosh, I'm still not 100%, right? And what I have found, and when I say 100% is what I mean here is that women who still struggle with things like anxiety, sleeping problems, irregular periods, hot flashes. And I know so many of you ladies here are dealing with hot flashes and night sweats. And then what's interesting that happens, and then we take coffee out and then amazing things start happening. And a lot of people start healing really, really quickly. I will tell you that, for example, I get lumpy boobs when I drink coffee. Every time I go to Italy and I slip and I go back to drinking my favorite espresso, come back and there's always a lump or two, and it's just a matter of a week or two before it gets dissolved, because I know how to take care of it. But I'm pretty sure the coffee is the one that contributes to it. So in today's call, I want to talk about, by the way, Jean, can you let me know whether you can actually see me talking, because I can see that on the videos it shows Lopa and not me, so I just want to make sure that we've got that covered. So there's a bit of a delay, so I'm gonna wait for Jean to let me know. So so a couple of things I want to share with you about, just in case you're not familiar with how coffee can impact your hormones. And one of the big things is, well, first of all, I wrote an article about that, and Jean is gonna post that article. It's called 11 Ways Caffeine Messes Up with Your Hormones. Actually, let me just go over this. I want to make sure that we're not gonna keep going without getting this fixed. Speaker view. Why not just do a speaker view for now and see whether yes, okay, she says she can see us. Great. So that's fine. All right. So what's gonna the first thing I want to just mention is that caffeine, for those of you who are on thyroid medication or you have a thyroid issue, the interesting thing is that the conversion of T4 hormone to T3 depends on a number of different factors, including your gut health, your liver health. That's where the conversion happens. Caffeine can inhibit the conversion of T4 to T3. So for those of you who are on thyroid meds, for example, Synthroid, you got to convert that from T4 to T3. Coffee can inhibit that. There's a number of different studies that are linked to in the article that talk about how coffee impacts your gut lining. People with IBS and anybody who's got an autoimmune disease can have the coffee can be a real issue, because on one end you're doing all these amazing things like bone broths and getting off gluten, all the anti-inflammatory foods, but on the other hand you're putting in a substance that's going to be ripping your lining apart, and that's what coffee can do for some people, especially when you drink it first thing in the morning before putting any food in your body. Another thing that's really interesting about coffee, and this is especially first thing in the morning, that's why I am so really triggered when people say do intermittent fasting, do first, but you can do coffee and don't eat until 12 o'clock. this is you're setting yourself a total disaster, especially when you have blood sugar balance problems. And coffee does increase your blood sugar levels. And especially when you do it first thing in the morning, you're giving yourself basically a sugar high. And then after a couple of hours, that's where people start feeling really jittery. And that could be the caffeine impact, but it also could be because of your blood sugar levels went up and it just drops below the optimal point. And this is when you start feeling really shaky. You start wanting, crave sugar, crave more coffee to bring up your blood sugar levels, right? Just not good at all. It impacts the adrenals. It impacts your estrogen metabolism. So hear this. The part of the liver that metabolizes caffeine is the same pathway that detoxifies us from estrogens. And for those of you who follow me for a while, you know that estrogen dominance is the leading cause of things like breast lumps, thyroid nodules, terrible PMSs, absent periods, can also lead to hot flashes, night sweats, endometriosis, fibroids, lumpy boobs, fibrocystic breasts are all the results of estrogen dominance. Well, guess what? Your liver is the one that detoxifies us from those estrogens. Estrogen is not bad. It's how you break down those estrogens will make a difference. Coffee will have an impact on those pathways as well. And this is the reason why when women remove caffeine in large extents, will often experience a lot of elevation of, a lot of the symptoms of estrogen dominance just disappear, which is amazing. There's a few other points. I'll just mention maybe one more, and that is that coffee is highly acidic. I want to just share with you my little experiment that I had done in the past. You can do that too if you have those pH strips at home. Take like a half a teaspoon of baking soda, drink up, go and pee, and you see how alkalized your urine is. You can even do it without any baking soda, but I'm just encouraging you to experiment with that, because then you can really see how your body pH goes up. And then you do that about 20 minutes, half an hour after drinking, right, the baking soda. And then go and have a coffee. And then do that again, like an hour later. Not even that. You can be like about 30, 40 minutes later. Do it again. And you'll see how the pH of your urine changes towards acidic right away. And that is fascinating, because so many, there's so much of stuff you hear about. You're going to be alkaline in order not to develop disease, right? And same time, coffee is like the biggest addictive substance that go to, in the morning to any coffee shop and see how many, there's lines of people just, yes, there, we see marijuana and alcohol and all that is controlled substance. I think coffee should be controlled substance to some extent as well. I don't want to be radical, but one of the things I promised you guys to talk about today is how do you know if coffee affects you? It's really, really simple. You would not know until you actually get off it. And don't say it doesn't impact you until you actually get off coffee for a couple of weeks. And then you would know whether, how your body responds to it. How is the quality of your sleep? And I won't be surprised if you're suddenly sleeping way better. How is your terms of your anxiety, your ability to lose weight? A lot of people start losing weight when they got off caffeine. Why? Because inflammation in the body starts reducing. They start having way better bowel movement, surprisingly, right? Because your gut starts healing. Yeah, I mean, those are some of the benefits. Hot flashes go away, lumpy boobs go away. So, all the things I talked about can make a difference. Okay, so I would love to introduce us to our guest today, Lopa from Rasa Coffee. Hi there.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, Magdalena.
Yeah, so the reason why, I don't know if you know this, but we haven't got to talk very much before we got started. And also I just want to recap that for some of our audience, is that just about a couple of weeks ago, we launched a new project called All Things We Love. And it's basically like a gallery. It's going to be it is a website that puts on products, showcases products and companies that we truly believe in. Companies that don't greenwash, companies that source very responsibly, and most importantly, create products that can really help women rebalance hormones naturally, indirectly or directly. And I feel like this one is a very close, even though it's indirect, you might say, well, actually it is direct, because we have a lot of adaptogens in this product that can actually directly help our immune system, our endocrine system. So we're going to talk about this. And so, last week we featured, if you guys have missed that out, last week we featured a great company, mom and daughter. Daughter had Crohn's disease in college. Mom starts making bone broth. figure out a way with a university professor how to cook it in a way that it's got the maximum nutritional impact. Starts shipping it to the daughter recovers, so much so she's the first person I know. She says that she's got Crohn's and she can occasionally eat gluten without breaking out. So that's quite something. I've never seen that before. But the product is amazing. And, so far, whoever has ordered just has been absolutely loving it. We love stories like that. And that's the reason why, when I heard about Rasa, I thought we've got to have these guys as part of our gallery of products and all things we love, just because the product is amazing, but also the story behind the product is awesome. And that's really what I want to talk about. And some of the adaptogens, we're going to talk about those are special herbs, and Lopa will explain what it is, are in here. And the reason why I'm in my kitchen is because at some point we'll see, maybe after her story, I'll start making the coffee. I'm going to show you how simple it is. And when I say coffee, it's an adaptogenic coffee. There's no caffeine in here. And we're going to talk about, you can make it caffeinated if you want to. There's a few varieties as well. So Jean, if you can, I can't see questions coming on Facebook. All questions that we do have come in. Jean, if you can post that into Skype, and I'm just gonna then, towards the end, we're gonna take your questions because I know I already know what the questions are gonna be about decaf, and so don't worry about that. We cover that because it's a very common one. Hey Lopa, so I know you're Boulder based. We went to the same school, Colorado School of Clinical Herbalism.
I actually did not go to, my co-founder went to that school, but I'm actually not a trained herbalist.
Okay.
I'm an enthusiast.
And I know your co-founder, at least one of the guys who works for you too, is also the guy who goes sourcing for all the products, right?
And he went to CSCH, the Colorado School of Clinical Herbalism. Yeah.
Awesome. So tell us first your story, because this is really fascinating. Like, how did you get started? How did you create Rasa?
Sure. Maybe just like before I do, I just want to say, wow, thank you. Because you are giving the kind of education that we just like, it's just so comprehensive and so succinct. So I just feel like really delighted by that and really grateful. So I started Rasa. I first had the idea about 4 years ago. I had just had a baby, and it was also the most stressful year of my life, aside from the baby. It was just one of those ones where you're like, wow, is it ever going to stop? And I was really intensely stressed out overall. I had recently healed my Hashimoto's and really gotten my hypothyroidism sort of balanced. And that part of that healing journey took me to Ayurveda. And so as I'm exhausted from having an infant and this stressful year, and I needed something to help me keep going. And there's kind of this cultural meme, I guess, in our society that like moms just guzzle coffee to get through early childhood. That's what you do. Like you just drink tons. And coffee's never been great for my system. I've always known that. I get jittery, I get, anxious, it interrupts my sleep. But then on top of that, it was like, this is like the absolute last time that I need coffee. My central nervous system is fried. And I don't want to be adding a stimulant to that. And so I was looking at the coffee alternatives out there, just, wanting a better option. And I didn't find one that did all the things that I wanted. I wanted something that was going to, I was a fan of herbs, and I just knew there was so much potential there. And I'm like, wow, of all the plants out there, we took coffee, which I agree with you, should be considered a bit of a drug. And that is just this widely accepted thing that we just jack ourselves up on constantly. And I was like, all right, I want this thing to taste great. I want it to give me energy. I want it to be overall nourishing and repleting for my body because I feel depleted right now. And just have a lot of health benefits, and it didn't exist. So I worked with my co-founder at the time, and she developed the formula. And you talked about blood sugar balance, actually, and it was interesting because it was sort of a miraculous coming together. The way she created the formula was within a few days. She was just like, boom. And we were like, oh my God, that's it. That's amazing. You took 12 herbs from all over the world and made it taste delicious and feel fantastic in my body. And part of that was because she had actually been working with 6 of those herbs together as a blood sugar balancing formula for almost a year before that. So there's so many different benefits to these herbs and so many different synergies within them. And so that blood sugar balance is definitely a key component. And a lot of hormone balancing components as well, particularly because of the adaptogenic herbs. And yeah, we can go into that. I can go on and on about those for a while.
Yeah. So, what I would love to do, maybe what we could do next is let's talk about, why don't we share actually, you know what? I'm just gonna make the coffee because we've got some audience that we build up, and everybody's I think most people love to see the actual product in action, if you will.
Totally.
So why don't I just start making it? And yeah, I don't know whether we want to use the slides. Maybe we don't use the slides. Maybe while I'm making this, you can just talk about some of the adaptogens and why do you guys, maybe, let's start off, because not everybody knows what an adaptogen is, if you will.
Sure.
So
Sure.
why don't we just talk about that while I'm gonna start making it. And so I just want to tell you guys, so there's two products, and Jeannie, if you can pop the link to the store, that would be great. The yellow one, that's the original one, and that's the one that we're going to talk a lot about, which I think I really want to invite you to try that as an alternative to a coffee. And we can talk about weaning off coffee by slightly adding coffee to this for some really good benefits. And then there is also the cacao rasa, which is slightly caffeinated because of the cacao. So it kind of depends on how sensitive you are to cacao. But this is like if you add a little bit of non-dairy milk, then this is gonna taste like your mochato kind of a thing, and this is an amazing one. So it could be as simple as you using a French press, right? A very traditional one. I don't particularly like French presses so much because I love percolators, just because the pressure, it's like making the real coffee when you have the pressure from the steam that really extracts a lot of the constituents and the flavors, and I just find that a little bit more fun. Mm-hmm. So, but whenever you have, Lopa, what about just a regular drip coffee machine? Can people use that?
No, we definitely do not recommend that. And just for the exact reason that you highlighted on the pressure, like you want that full herbal extraction, and we have yet to find a drip machine that will give you, the Rasa either needs 10 minutes or pressure
right.
to get that full extraction. So 10 minutes works in a French press. Percolators are great. We actually just started carrying one on our website. It's beautiful. We've been looking for one for like a year to find the best one.
So I know you guys can't see it, but it's basically very finely ground. I'm using a system today where I can't zoom in on my hands, unfortunately, because I'm having a guest. So you can just, kind of, actually, let me just do that on my hand and see whether, so I want to show you. So this is basically what the coffee looks like, right? It's very finely ground. So that's going to extract it pretty well. And I also like the fact, Lopa, that you guys say that you can reuse the herbs for a second brew, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, we really want people to get the most possible out of these herbs and, get the best bang for your buck. If you do rebrew it, we recommend adding a little fresh dry rasa to the rebrew, and that'll give you more of that flavor. You're still getting the herbal constituents, but, if you still want that robust flavor.
Yeah. And one of the things that, I recommend, if you're weaning yourself off, and you're gonna be having too much of a problem just giving up coffee, caffeine cold turkey, then what you can do is just whatever coffee you're using, put that in a percolator, or your the traditional method of brewing this coffee is really on the stove in a pot, right? And how long would you recommend brewing it for? 15-20 minutes?
Yeah, 10 to 15 works. We switch to a finer grind size. We do also carry a dirty rasa that is blended with coffee as well, just because we have so many people who are using it in that way.
And what I like about, you're weaning yourself off, or you feel like you still need a little bit of that caffeine kick, what I love about this is that by combining that with the adaptogenic herbs, you are reducing the impact of caffeine with all the side effects I talked about, the blood sugar issue, right? The inflammatory effect, the impact on the adrenals, on the thyroid, on the gut. And so for that reason, I think it's a better bed. And once you're completely ready to wean yourself off caffeine, then it's just all the way just rasa and nothing else. So while this is brewing, and this is gonna just take a few minutes, tell us a little bit more about what's so magical about the herbs that you guys are using here.
Sure.
And what are adaptogens? Maybe let's start off with that first.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking I'd start. So adaptogens are a class of herbs that, to put it very simply, they help your body to adapt to stress, but they do that in two main ways. So your body has two main systems that it uses to communicate to your adrenals when you're under stress. And that is via the endocrine system that's called the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, so HPA. And that's the endocrine pathway for just saying, hey, adrenals, there's stress, do cortisol, do the thing. And in the nervous system, that's your sympathoadrenal system, so SAS. And these are two, I mean, these systems influence everything in your body. That is inflammation, that's stress, that's, anxiety, that's, so many different symptoms that in modern society we're constantly feeling because we're in a relatively constant stress state.
And if I can just add to this, is the nervous system, is the endocrine system, which is the hormonal system, but it's also the immune system, and all of them come together in the hypothalamus. And that's your master controller. So it's really interesting how people who also give up coffee also feel like their immune system settles down as well. People with autoimmune disease. I did an experiment once where I gave up coffee and I went to retest my TPO antibodies for Hashimoto's, and they dropped by 200 points just by giving up coffee. I did not change anything else.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, sorry. So back to you.
No, please insert this is great. I'm learning too. So adaptogens actually, they mimic stress in those two systems. I know you might hear that and say like, wait a second, I don't need anything to mimic stress. I have plenty. But think about it. There are good stressors in our lives, and exercise is one of the best examples of that. Like when you exercise, you are actually stressing your body out in a conscious way in favor of strengthening it. And so adaptogens are actually doing that to your HPA and to your SAS. They spike your heat shock proteins, which are things that rise under stress. But in this context, it's actually a positive spike that helps your entire system actually down-regulate its stress response. The net effect is that you're basically getting more stress resilience. So it takes you longer to actually freak out. And we hear this all the time from people that they're just like, the little things don't get to me in the same way. I'm less of a jerk. I'm nicer to my kids. And then you come back, you don't get quite as stressed out. And then you come back down more quickly to your balanced best self. The longer you take them, adaptogens have a cumulative effect. So it's not something that you're going to necessarily take the first day and be like, oh my God, suddenly I just didn't get stressed out at the little things, like so many holistic changes. And I'm sure you guys are all pretty aware of this, being, connected to Magdalena, that they take time. And this is a full system, full body upgrade that's holistic and is actually going to work in all systems of your body. As we talk, digestion, immune system, endocrine system, all of it. So as you drink them over time, you're going to really notice those effects more and more. So they're really, really amazing herbs, and Rasa has 7 adaptogenic herbs in it. Those are eleuthero and rhodiola, which are actually stimulating herbs. So those are going to give you that boost today. But at the same time, we've got other herbs in there that are actually helping to replenish your energy reserves so that your energy levels are actually stabilizing over time. So that's Codonopsis, Hoshowu, ashwagandha, shatavari. These are all amazingly nourishing and rebuilding, vitalizing herbs. So you get both that like early, like quick today hit, and then also are actually stabilizing your energy levels over time. And then we also have reishi mushroom in there as well, which is an adaptogenic herb. And then the other herbs in there are chicory, burdock, and dandelion, which are phenomenal for digestion, for detoxification, for lymph, for liver, and Ceylon cinnamon. We only use Ceylon because that's true cinnamon, and the other cinnamons are actually really high in coumarin, which is not great for the liver at all.
Yeah.
And then chaga mushroom as well, which is fantastic for immunity, and is often marketed as an adaptogen, but doesn't have those effects on the HPA and the SAS. And that's one really useful thing I just like to tell everybody, especially if you're new to adaptogens. Adaptogen is often used as a marketing term, but it's really a scientific term, and there are really specific criteria for something to be considered an adaptogen. And I'm in LA right now, and I am just seeing the world of adaptogen washing. If you look at our Instagram right now, I'm like, cool, here's culprit number 4. This does not contain any adaptogens, which doesn't mean that those aren't great herbs and great medicines in their own right, but just it's about being honest in your marketing. And a lot of times people do use the word adaptogen to just charge more money.
Yeah.
I think, or because they're excited and they just don't know.
Yeah. One of my 2 favorite herbs that are in here is urethra and rhodiola that you mentioned. And the one of the fascinating things about them is that they grow in such difficult conditions, right? Where it's cold, there's very little water, it's super windy, and so they develop certain sense of resilience to survive. And what's interesting a lot about these herbs is that the environment they live on and the properties they acquire to survive, that gets passed on as a quality, an energetic quality to us as humans. And that's the reason why those two herbs are, amongst many other ones, are one of my favorites. When you guys are using that, I have to say the other thing is, one of the things I promised to talk about today, and the coffee is coming up, is what's the difference between, like, you guys, for example, versus there's a lot of different coffee alternatives out there in the market. Can we maybe just talk a little bit about that, because I get that question all the time. What about Dandy Blend and tea Toko, whatever, and right? Yeah. All these. Can we just address a little bit what's the difference? I think they all taste great, but there is a significant difference. Can we maybe? What is your thought on that?
Yeah, and I really respect a lot of those brands and what they've done to help create the category. So different people are suited for different things, but a lot of them have some kind of sweetener, whether that's through dates or through beet sugar, or a lot of them are also grain based. They use barley or rye, and quite a few of them also have natural flavors. And that was something that I'm just like, I'm not into that whole thing. So we use just herbs, and ours really has a functional benefit. I think a lot of them are a little bit more taste focused. So with Rasa, you're going to get just a tremendous amount of holistic functional benefit for your body, as well as that energy component. And some of them talk about, you get energy from nutrients, and that's valid and that's true, but they don't have like actual energizing herbs like eleuthero and rhodiola. So those are some significant differences. Rasa is more expensive than the other coffee alternatives as a result of that. But if you compare Rasa to other adaptogen products, we're actually really, really competitively priced. Most adaptogen products are like $2 to $4 a serving, and Rasa is less than $1.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. And so you know what? I'm just gonna make that coffee because it smells so darn good that I don't want to wait anymore. So, I'm using my mason jar so you guys can see the color. It's I didn't make it very strong. I just made it kind of like half of the usual dose that I will typically use. As you can see, this has got the color and and like the richness, if you will, of just like a regular coffee. And I think something you need to try to really understand. And I think a lot of people have tried, when you try coffee alternatives, roasted chicory, roasted dandelion are the classical ones, right? And I love them because they are the bitter, in a bitter category. If you follow me for a while, you know that bitters are amazing for liver support and just stimulate your whole digestive system. Like, it gets you to excrete much more hydrochloric acid. It helps your pancreas to produce more enzymes. It's going to help digest food. So just all around amazing herbs. And, from a just purely taste perspective, like, I feel like there's this depth of flavors to, can you hear my dog whimpering? So hey, everybody, officially, I posted that on the page already. I got a new dog. I picked her up on Saturday. She's a stray. And so she is in her crate, but I suspect even the crate is gonna get, she's not happy in there. So I might need to let her out in a second. But so what I wanna just show you, I've just added, because a lot of people are asking about that. So I do use, just because I've been really busy recently and I've been on the move a lot. So I am using a creamer from Nut Pods, which is, you can get a lot of health food stores. It's a hazelnut creamer. Just because I do like a little bit of that sort of creaminess in my coffee. So let me describe the taste. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are just looking for bitterness, like first thing in the morning. What you want is the bitterness, right? And that's what it delivers. That there is a depth of flavor. A lot of times, like, I feel like when you're doing just roasted chicory, it doesn't have the depth of flavor that this has. There has got that rooty quality to it for sure. There is bitterness. There's a level of sweetness as well. If you are really in tune with, like, really figuring out flavors, There's sweetness to it. You know, and I found this is one of the easiest things to transition from coffee to something non-caffeinated, is not just to, because, you know, people go like, oh, well, have an herbal tea instead. And a lot of people go like, well, to hell with that. Like, this just doesn't do it for me. Like, I need something better, that warm beverage, especially going into cold months now. Like, I need that something. And that's what I have found has really helped me a lot to transition from coffee, is because I feel like I'm just kind of cheating my body into thinking that it is coffee, but it doesn't have the caffeine, and it's energizing at the same time, but without being jittery. So really awesome stuff. Should we go into questions?
Sure. Yeah. And one more thing I'll just note on the flavor too, is that there's really a robustness in a body that you don't get with tea, and that a lot of people do want in that coffee. So it is just more like of a full mouth
Fullness. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So we gotta wait. There's a usual question. So you guys don't do any international shipping, right?
We recently stopped, but Amazon Global
Okay.
does serve a lot of countries. We're still trying to figure it out right now. So it's apparently not everywhere.
Okay. So one thing, you guys, Jean, if you could just post that URL. There is a company called myus.com. You can buy from Rasa in the US, ship it there, and then they will ship it to you. It's an additional charge, of course. And we only started recently working with this company, so I don't want to take any responsibility for it. Do your research, but that's an option there. So that's a usual question we get. Okay, as always, what about, there's questions about, the really good ones about mold. How do you prevent mold from being in the product? Like this, which is a usual coffee problem.
Yeah. We test everything. So everything is third-party tested before it even comes to us, and then we batch test everything as well, just to make sure that there's no mold, heavy metals, biological contaminants of any kind. And we're just constantly testing that. Our herbalist, who went to CSCH with Magdalena, he used to be at Celestial Seasoning, so he really understands how to make everything work really well.
I have to tell you guys, so this is like a little behind the scenes, but this is just really cool when you know the founders. So the guy who buys for them is, he lectures in our school as well, and he did 4 hours of lectures about, the lecture was called Commerce, Herbs of Commerce. And he was basically explaining how herbs can be purchased. And this is really what can differentiate a lot of companies. It's like a chamomile from Argentina is not the same chamomile as coming from Egypt, which the Egyptian one is way better. It's got richer constituents, both are called chamomile, but the benefit you're getting out of it is very different. And so it really depends a lot on the responsibility of the company, of where they're sourcing products from. And hearing his story and how anal you guys about sourcing, which is kind of like, you know, I mean, for people who don't run their own business, it's really hard to understand that the cost factor can really make or break a company, right? Like how you make your living. And it's easy to go in there and just put in a hell of a lot of cheap products in there and then reduce the price by half so that people stop complaining that it's more expensive than the usual cup of joe, which we said, I think that it's not, because of how you can use the product. But, you know, so it's really interesting where you can play a part in this as a consumer. It's not just about bringing that health benefits to yourself, I think, through all that we've explained, but it's also you supporting an industry of farmers, growers, and companies like Lopa and the people that she employs, in just really creating a better good for all of us, which I think is huge. So let's see what else. We've got, a lot of shipping questions. Are you using percolator? Yes, I was, Teresa. How can we buy this? Hey, Jean, can we make this link a little bit more clear? Just put there, like, this is where you can get Rasa, and on this link. And we did post that link from up above, you guys. I'm excited to hear about this product and would love to try it, says Belinda. Is it organic? Also, we'll be offering first-time order discounts. So do you want to talk about the organic part first?
Sure. Yeah. Rasa is certified organic. So it's possible that the bags you have are older before we had our certification. You can't put the seal on until you actually get it. So we were in process with that. But all of our bags now are certified organic. Everything, we're extremely sticklers about organic sustainability and ethics as well. Our Chinese herb supplier, we get from an herb supplier who supplies to mountain rose herbs and puka teas and yogi teas, and also to celestial and traditional medicinals, all these amazing things. And one of my claims to fame actually is that he said that Ben, who is our herbalist, was the biggest pain in the butt out of any of them. And I was like, yes, our little company is more of a pain in terms of just like all that sustainability and all the organic components. So yes, everything is organic. And there was another part to that question as well that I
whether we get first discount.
So if you go to our website, in the lower right corner, there will be a little thing that pops up and just says, I think it might say 15% off your first order or something like that. Just click there, and then that'll sign you up to our email list, and you'll get a first time order discount.
Belinda is saying, I don't mind keto by adding butter oil to my coffee is just a step too far. I just want to enjoy my coffee. Yeah, so I will say just completely give it up and do something like this. Brenda is asking, does it bring up your blood sugar levels even if you haven't used added sugar? I'm assuming that's a question about coffee. And if it is, then yes, it's even without the sugar, coffee does bring up your blood sugar levels. And this is actually really interesting. For those of you, maybe you might want to chime in. For those of you who might be having, like you wear this sugar blood detector in the back of your hand, people with diabetes, for example, with type 1, sometimes type 2, or people who are doing keto will have that. And then that's connected to your device. We actually did this experiment when I just came back from Switzerland. We were doing their liver detox with our ladies. And one of the ladies was type 1 diabetic, and she had a coffee, and then she showed us on her monitor like how it jacked up her blood sugar levels like right away. And she had her coffee, mind you, even after breakfast. So it was really interesting to see that, on the app itself. So it's not just the sugar. Teresa is saying, I have lemon water warm first thing in the morning, fruit, and then oatmeal, and then a small cup of coffee. Great. If it works for you, amazing. And I'll say, if you want to try a little bit like getting off coffee and just see if there's any health benefits doing that, and try something a little different and venture out, I would want to encourage you to do that. And it's saying, I'm hypersensitive and coffee helps me with multiple symptoms. It is the only food item that I can feel it's helping me dealing with the symptoms. It's great.
Awesome. Or maybe try dirty Rasa, which is blended. And it is really amazing how those herbs and the coffee kind of neutralize each other, because they're helping with the nervous system while the coffee is sort of jacking up the nervous system. They're balancing out the adrenal impact, the acidity as well. So it's a match made in heaven, really.
Yeah. Tana is saying something really interesting. She says, coffee affects my thyroid, gut, hormones. I sleep big time. When I quit for a week and I lost weight and I have more energy. Welcome to the club. That's one of very, very many. Can you make this without any machines? Ida Tsui is asking. Yes. So I don't have a pot here right now with me, but you can basically take a pot and let me see whether I have something like right down below here. Yeah, there we go. Just to illustrate a point, you can just take a regular pot like this, right? And what would you say, Lopa, in terms of the amounts? What would you use?
Usually 1 tablespoon per 8 ounces.
Okay, right. Yeah. And then you would want to brew it on what? On very low heat
simmer it for 10 to 15 minutes. Yeah. And then you'll need to strain it through a really fine mesh strainer. So just any of those usual like wire fine mesh strainers usually work well.
Right. Okay. Let me just go over to Facebook. If there's anything else that I'm missing? Yeah. So I think those are the. Oh wow! Susan is saying I had to stop drinking regular coffee because I had migraines for weeks. But I would love to try this. Awesome, Susan. I hope you do try. Yeah. So, hey, thanks everybody for your questions, and I think I really want to thank for those of you who are really want to reach out, support companies that are truly sustainable and truly care about its environment. Because, like I said, it's really easy to do a lot of greenwashing and create a lot of stories about something like adaptogens and just put a whole bunch of shitty herbs in there and then call it, you know, make a lot of marketing claims. And that's what we do in All Things We Love, is but what we are doing is really drawing the line between what is a truly amazing product that has substance and sustenance, and then a product that do a lot of greenwashing, and we just basically rule those out. Don't let marketing get in the way. All right. Thanks everybody for watching. Thanks Lopa for making the time today. I know this was a little bit out of your schedule. I appreciate you being here. And yeah, I hope you guys support Rasa. The offer is gonna be there on the website. And yeah, and I wish you a wonderful weekend ahead. Bye everyone. I'm gonna go around to actually turn off the video. Very clumsy today. Bye Lopa.
Bye. Thanks, Magdalena. Thanks, everyone.